Hello, and welcome to Resolve, an afterplay show. This is an after show for a role-playing game that does not have an actual play, where we tell you all the details of our game so you don't have to listen to it. Hi, I'm Sammie, I'll be your host. My pronouns are she, her, and I play Assyria Molly, the Hope of the Abyss. Joining me is my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I play the Marlboro Juice and his Moogle companions, the Smogs. All of us use he, him pronouns.
We are joined today by Dex.
Hello, it's been a while. My name is Dex Van. I'm playing as Athenos, god of one of the weird Greek pantheons, and he goes by he, him pronouns.
We are also joined today by Zach.
Hi, I'm Zach. I use he, him pronouns, and I play Tau, dozens of dragons who use they, them.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Now that we're all here, Alex, why don't you tell us about the actual play?
Previously in EFFETE, the Sleep Beast witnesses the broken Chrysalis moon and stabs Aura asleep in a rage. He and the rest of WorldCorps join Geyser and witness Alraune pushing back the moon. Athenos appears with Forcephini looking for the Sleep Beast and Cyclia. With some replacement forces and breaking her spell, they take Alraune out of the scene, knocked out but safe. Smog stays behind to maintain his summoning, holding up the moon, but Juice leaves with the party. On the way to the World Travel Labs and the infirmary, Athenos and Assyria catch up. Assyria drops off Alraune and says goodbye to Powder. After waking Aura, the party leaves for the World of Motion through the green floral portal. Pony runs around commanding surprising wind powers. They are accosted by a manticore, but a dancer Tau arrives to calm and shoo it. An artist/mechanic Smog flies in after them. They meet men in a car, a human and an orc named Patrick and Orthan respectively. While they tell the rest of the party about the Butterfly Run race, Smog steals a magical map from them and replaces it with a worse recreation. They leave having checked on the party whilst hesitant to offer material aid. Athenos and Forcephini return to the configuration. WorldCorps decides to pursue the Butterfly Run.
Now that you've heard the actual play, let's do a deep dive into the session. We've brought the beast from the world of spirit into the hub world, and they're not very pleased about what's going on with the moon.
No one seems particularly pleased about this situation, honestly.
Except maybe the governance, but I don't know if they have emotions or not.
Dan will not show us the governance. No live governance reaction.
No.
Live governance reaction is just a big red screen. Yeah, even they got a bunch of their ships crashed last session, so they aren't doing the best right now either.
I can only imagine the crazy space war going on in the sky, but it's too bad we're distracted by the moon.
Too bad.
It's too bad.
How is Athenos feeling coming back to moon disaster and the governance being around?
Well, it was really fun. Mostly because, the governance is something that we introduced into the campaign, Dan introduced to the campaign so early, I feel. It was, right after World 1, where we returned to Sequence Charter, and then we were doing some research in the library, and the governance was there. And I remember Athenos, immediately hated the concept of the governance, and Dan was like, well, let's play that up. They're kind of, they're potentially making moves now, so we can tie that into the current plot. And I was really excited that was still happening. And then it was really interesting to see everyone's characters and the NPCs growth over the past couple months while I've been away. And then it created this fascinating concept of gods living for very long periods of time, right? And then being unchanging because of it takes a lot to change a god. And so it was very much an experience of coming back into playing Athenos and then being the same person that I was, whereas characters that I was playing with had all changed and grown and become different in what I perceived to be a very short amount of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. You say Athenos is still very much the same, but he seems to have taken on a lot more responsibility in the time since then.
That's true.
He was a lot more carefree and is now enforcing the rules.
That's true. He's probably a little bit less goofy and a little bit more play by the laws of this world, kind of.
Athenos got a day job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's realizing all of the work that all the other gods do on the regular, and he's like, wait a second. I have been slacking this whole time.
I love that we remembered in the middle of catching up with everyone initially that Geyser is still in one of her new disguises where she looks just like a human version of Geyser, like a normal human woman. And Athenos sort of refuses to acknowledge that she's there.
Athenos has an aversion to change. Been a lot of change happening.
So much change. Is that new party dynamic jarring for Athenos?
The party dynamic being very different from what it was before. I was expecting it coming in, and like Dan had primed me with like all the things that had like happened in between the time, and I've been listening to the podcast, so I like have a reasonable understanding of what's going on. But interacting with those characters in their new level was different from what I expected for sure.
I also didn't make the job easy for you, having gone through a playbook change that introduces a deepening of the time bullshit immediately prior to you coming back.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in the party is really sure what's going on with Smog at the moment.
No.
I mean, when Dan went, there's not only one, but two connecteds now. I was like, oh boy. Okay. Sounds good. And then they were also talking about the move that you took, Zeta Flare. Well, the move that you did, Zeta Flare, but it was based off of the actual move that I'm forgetting the name of.
Right, we created a new move. We talked about it last time. It was Junction Shift as a new Link move to enhance the ultimate form.
Oh, I thought there was something that had where you were like a prophecy. You prophesized something that would happen.
Right. I did use prophesize to say that the governance were coming back, and that is why Smog had to cast Zeta Flare.
Right. And I was also briefed upon the inter-party dynamic of like a series like people should stay and fight for their home, and Smog being like, let's just get out of here. Everyone, let's leave. And in the little briefing that I was talking with Dan, I was like, I think I'm on Team Asiri with this one.
Hell yeah. Yes. This is good. This plays into the shenanigans that Asiri has with Athenos previously.
It's so funny to me because both of these, because of the setup of the game, both of these opinions hold contradictions, because the concept that Terra poses to us is, I want to return to our ancestral home of Earth. I don't want to abandon that, and this doesn't have as much meaning to me. But you also have this idea of staying at your new home that you've not made, but been forced to adapt to. And I think taking a really hard line to either of them, which, I mean, our characters have done, is a little contradictory.
Yeah, and it's, at least for where I'm sitting with Asiri, it's not so much that she wants them to stay here. It's not like Chrysalis is the end-all be-all. But at this point in time, and we don't know what extent when we finally do finish connecting the WorldCorps, if they really will be able to make it to Earth or whatever happens, she wants to at least have a backup plan, a survivability. If it's lost, Sierra has mentioned that the other planets that humanity has colonized are not that great. This is the best one they've got. You gotta make it at least somewhat stable.
Yeah, and it's also interesting in that you do have the idea of going back to that ancestral home, but you also have a whole generation of people like Powder who have only known Chrysalis. They weren't on Earth. They were born after.
I mean, that's true for Terra's generation as well. It's just that those people, this generation has known a mostly free Chrysalis.
Right.
Yeah, because it has been a couple thousand years since people left Earth.
Right, true. Yeah, generations of people that have only known Chrysalis and have built a life here. So it's interesting to think of that, like, going back to reclaim Earth as one of the goals. But
and what's to stop the governance from running over there next?
Yeah, exactly. As Terra pointed out, like, they might be, looking into world travel as well, and we need to figure it out first. So
I can't say it's a bad thing to want to go back to Earth, because they were enslaved for generations and generations. I'm sure there's some level of romanticism that's been built up over the years about, what could have been if we hadn't made this choice.
Yeah. All I'll say in regards to the governance could go anywhere is that there is a reason that all their future Smog that we're seeing come up here is wearing a Sequence Charter Chrysalis jumpsuit and not something from home.
I have no fucking idea what Smog is doing right now. Like, I appreciate it, don't get me wrong, I'm just fucking confused.
Yeah. This version of Smog that we're coming into in this world, and we'll get back to it, is between the Smog at the start of the session and the Smog at the start of the campaign, timeline-wise. So this Smog has not experienced the Zeta Flare yet.
Alex, I can't keep track of your Legend of Zelda-esque timeline.
Like, I need a fucking map here.
I only recently learned that you had a Marlboro instead of a walking cigarette.
Oh my god! Like, you've played several Final Fantasy games, right?
Well, no, I haven't played several Final Fantasy games.
Oh.
I have played 0 of them.
Yeah!
That's wild.
Well, actually, that's a lie. I've played Final Fantasy, the one where you, like, fight it's like a fighting simulator.
Oh, Dissidia?
Yeah, I'm gonna say yes. That sounds right.
Oh my god, that's such a weird way to have experienced the series Final Fantasy.
I've played about, like, half of 10 to the point where Titus and Yuna laugh off a cliff, and I was like, this is the best. I can't progress beyond this point. There's nothing better that's happening later.
You gotta play 12.
I played through half of 4, I think. Probably
that one's really good.
And that's about it. I know of the others and, like, of plots that happens in them.
I don't know why I assumed you had played 14.
Is that the MMO one?
That's the MMO, yeah.
I have played 14.
Okay.
I played through, like, I'm still somewhere in, like, the original main campaign.
So you're still on the free trial, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe you actually have played some Final Fantasy, just managed to mostly avoid Marlboro.
Yeah. Well, I knew what they were. It didn't register with me that is the familiar that you had specifically.
You thought it was just a cigarette with tentacles and
correct.
ice sauce.
Anyway, we did gloss over one of my favorite parts of the beginning of this session, which was the Sleep Beast stabbing Aura to sleep as they're trying to ask questions.
I'm glad the Sleep Beast was just as unreasonable as we remembered from the first time.
So obstinate. I love the Beast so much.
And you all don't get why Tao doesn't like it.
Yeah, I was Team Tao during the Sleep Beast arc, the World of the Lost arc.
Okay, I didn't lock my Sleep Beast link, so I think Smog and Juice kind of nothing the Sleep Beast. Like, I have to spend all my links to swap as the connected, so...
Right.
I think I don't have it pulled up, but I'm pretty sure Siri's still sitting on a light link with the Beast, so...
Okay.
They are intricately connected, what can I say?
He's like little brother. Gives off little brother energy.
Did you choose to surfboard in on Forcephini, or was that something Dan prompted you?
Oh, I asked him if I could surfboard in on Forcephini. I did ask what the status of Forcephini was going into the session, and what Forcephini would likely be doing. And I was like, okay, well, perhaps they're helping out with managing the configuration, and therefore now Athenos and Forcephini super get along.
I love that.
Nice.
Siri's super impressed by that, because Forcephini is very shy. Way to give so much power to a stingray who has the mental intelligence of a dog.
Stingray Blast.
I had to get help from whatever I could get. There's not a lot of choice right now.
You got 2 other gods and a stingray, and you're going to make this work.
Yeah, and the 2 other gods have disappeared.
I do love Athenos charging in here and being like, Sleep Beast, where the fuck have you been?
Yeah. I didn't realize the Sleep Beast was there, but when Dan was like, the Sleep Beast is here, talking to the moon, I was like, okay, well, we can do a thing. We can do a bit with Athenos, trying to find his workers.
So, what about Cyclia being missing?
That was intended. I asked Dan what Athenos knew about the configuration, about what was going on, and he told me various things that I could use to play off of and kind of give you guys some amount of direction from a player character.
You definitely threaded those 2 things together very well, like hyping up the anxiety of missing your friends, even though they were gone for very different reasons.
But yeah, the extent of it was Athenos knows that Cyclia is missing. He thought she wasn't in the configuration, but through Tao's work, we found out that she is in the configuration, but perhaps in a domain that even Athenos doesn't know about yet.
Yeah, Tao was looking for Cyclia. The terrain of the configuration was all shifting around, and it's still not clear who's responsible for that. And then Tao saw a vision of someone dancing and glitching out in front of a giant red screen and just singing about eyes.
Yeah.
Which somehow at that point set off some crazy conspiracy sirens in my head about connecting this game back to the previous games.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly thinking the governance is actually just the people running one of these experiments again that put all of these people, took them from Earth and into virtual world land. And that is Chrysalis.
My thought is also Smog just released another magical software being out there that is somewhat based on Tao, might be giving us a warning about the governance keeping eyes on us. That's why Smog was straining keeping up his summon that we'll talk about in a bit, and saying the virus.
The virus.
Oh, interesting.
virus.
Interesting idea.
How is Tao feeling regarding getting these visions? Because these are new for them, right? They haven't really had prophetic sight before.
Yeah, this has only started happening with a couple sessions ago when that first governance attack happened, and now this one. And Tao is trying to deal with it, but really uncertain why they're the only one getting it, why they're happening in the first place. They're trying to go along with it for now, but very unsettled.
Your galaxy braining and my galaxy braining really have me smashing those two things together. I wonder if Dan was very excited when I said virus, because that was the exact right thing.
Ooh.
If the guns think it is.
Perhaps.
Because Dan did sort of perk up to oh, virus.
Get those wee woo conspiracy sirens going
Every
on.
time Dex is on.
Every single time Dex is on.
Well, the problem is now that I'm half an NPC and half a guest player, Dan's told me things.
God damn it.
So I can't say anything.
Obviously, Alraune is stressed under the immense weight of the moon and pushing it backwards. So the party steps up to help. Athenos attempts to work his magic. Juice and Smog do some Psycho Glass Knights of the Round Table shenanigans.
Using the full gallon of Psycho Glass that Geyser.
And then Pony screamed a lot.
Yes.
To encourage everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. And you know what sucks is we have all of these really powerful people here, and we still don't know if the moon is stable.
I mean, it is an entire moon. It would be hard to deal with that with just one move.
We have several gods here.
I think that's something interesting about the system itself, the Powered by the Apocalypse engine that this is built off of. It lets you both be very powerful, but then there's limitations to what you can do.
Yeah, I was thinking along that vein as well. I understand this being a narrative set piece that we might have to put quite a lot into and can't be fixed immediately.
I'm just waiting for the next fucked up sky thing to happen, because something bad has happened in each sky we've been to.
Has it?
Or at least questionable. Obviously, the moon's fucked up here on Chrysalis. The Sleep Beast and the moon were causing problems in the world of spirit. The sound cloud in the world of music.
Right.
The entire stars have burnt out in the world of ages, so I'm just waiting for the next sky.
Yeah. There's some funky stuff going on with the wind here in this new world, so who knows what effect that'll have.
The sky wind.
I do want to say for Smog and Juice's summon, Smog hooked up a bunch of links of Psycho Glass to Juice's end of tentacles, where he now has little gold elements, and was puppeting these different knights that were half Arthurian and half Terra's Marauders, because part of the junction shift is that I have to use local magic, and Psycho Glass is the closest thing to that. And I wanted to have, like, what is the local version of the Knights of the Round?
Nice.
What's the small local business version of the Knights of the Round Table?
Yes.
Anyway, we take some of the stress off of Alraune. Athenos and Forcephini cast Stingray Blast and free Alraune from their tree prison magic mana burn situation. And we
Stingray Blast!
Stingray Blast! Which is the most powerful move in the series arsenal. That's not true, but it is for me.
I love that your magic is always so violent sounding.
It's not. It's just a Stingray Blast. Everything will be okay.
Oh, okay.
See, it's just like what Smog did to Pot.
Yeah. The amount of times we've shot someone to make them better is like twice, which is still a lot of times.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mercy from Overwatch.
Thank you. We head back to the World Travel Center to, get Alraune cleaned up a little bit and prepare for our next world. And we catch up a little bit. Athenos chats with everybody about what's been going on.
Yeah, that's when we get into figuring out Cyclia went missing, that whole thing, and the configuration, everything Athenos has been doing there.
We're all really rude. We didn't ask how Herc was doing.
Yeah, you're right.
Has Hercules disappeared?
Oh, Hercules is doing fine.
Okay.
I thought you said hurt, and I was like, I don't know who this character is. It's probably someone in Sequence Charter. We're not talking about anything Athenos related. No. So I got a brief update on Hercules as well. He's also doing good, and he helps maintain. So that's why Athenos is able to leave the configuration to come meet with the party, figure out what's going on, and kind of seek for help outside of the configuration, is because there's forces inside it that he's working with to help maintain the area. And Hercules is one of those forces. And who knows, maybe Onion Ogre.
I'm just thinking of all the characters I've made for Smog that could be hanging out there.
Right.
Charlene was there.
That's why I didn't put together what you were saying about the glitching thing being the virus that Smog made based on Tau, because I was assuming that it was a character from Tau's backstory.
Maybe.
That's what I thought too.
There are definitely a couple of those that would be very interesting to see.
I just want to know who Athenos has run into. I gotta know what the gossip is, because apparently somebody is telling shit about a Asiri to Athenos, and there's only one person I can think of that has that knowledge, potentially.
It's Forcephini!
Yeah, Forcephini.
He's a hot gossiper.
I love when you held up the scroll to make people sign out of the configuration. You were like, Forcephini signs every time.
Seriously, I don't even know how to write. I'm so proud Forcephini can.
Forcephini's smart, actually.
Then we see it just punched out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like those dogs that get the buttons that each say a single word.
Yes.
I
Forcephini
love
just
those
learned
dogs.
those.
Oh, that's also the title drop moment.
Oh yeah, sign the scroll.
The end here, Athenos mentions explaining things in the configuration, how everything is stitched together from different pieces of our understandings of our home worlds. He mentions that he's made a mini utopia. Is that the ultimate goal here for the configuration, or are you just trying to get it settled? Does Athenos have a larger plan going on right now?
Yes, there is a larger plan. I don't think I talk about this too much without spoiling greater picture of what the configuration is, what the world in there looks like. I can say that Athenos is trying to create this, at least a harmonious setup where the worlds can coexist peacefully, and it can be a area of respite for people who need it. I think Tau is actually doing something very similar in creating their own kind of small world where people can be safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a whole bunch of different people's worlds constantly coming and going from that area. He's met a lot of people from your worlds, and from his perspective, all those people seem very real and genuine to him. It doesn't feel like they're fake copies brought from somewhere else. They feel like the genuine article. So Hercules is Hercules. Forcephini is Forcephini, to Athenos at least. So he is desperately trying to create a space where they're all protected and can live in harmony. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have so many ways to create an ending in different places for different characters in this campaign. It's very interesting to me. I kind of already know where my smogs are going, I think. It could definitely change as we go along, but that's part of their story. And I've talked about that before. I've got one smog that I want to stay and help Tau, and another smog that I want to leave to go home. But those things could change.
Yeah, I have a loose ending of where I think a series is going as well. But again, things could happen.
Yeah, I, on the other hand, have a general direction I see Tau going, but I'm not sure how exactly that's going to turn out based on further developments in the campaign.
Well, from there, we have a very sweet scene with Asiri and Powder.
Asiri, who has been carrying Alraune this entire time, takes them with Powder to the infirmary, and Asiri's like, hey, I'm not a doctor. I don't know anatomy for you human people. Alraune, I don't know what Alraune is, but she seems kind of like a person. Can you help or find someone that helps? And Powder's like, yeah, no problem. I can go find a doctor or a medic or whatever. Asiri's like, all right, we're probably going to leave soon, so I can't ask you to not rush headfirst into danger to help people, because that's why I love you, because you help people. So I'm not going to make you promise something that you can't keep. But if things get too dangerous, at least promise me that you'll hide. I may be able to help you if that's the case. And Powder, oblivious, is just like, yeah, sure. Absolutely. And then they kissy, and then they have a moment in front of Alraune passed out. Ugh, I love these two. It's disgusting.
They are very cute together.
It was adorable, and it definitely plays into some thoughts I have for Powder, maybe when we come back and see what's been going on in Chrysalis.
Yeah, I'm very nervous of what you have for Powder. But meanwhile, everyone else goes back to the World Travel Lab, and they have a scene where Pony wakes up Aura, who has been knocked out on the couch. And I like how Carolyn will indulge in the animal side of Pony sometimes. Has her, nudge and nuzzle Aura awake. It was very cute.
I was worried that Aura would just stay asleep and Pony would be very freaked out. Or, afraid that the Sleep Beast had put a major sleeping curse on Aura or something.
Well, the good news is we scared the beast literally half to death the first time we dealt with them, so it seems very unlikely that he will go back on his word. Especially with Tau being right there.
Yeah, hopefully that's enough of a deterrent.
Please no Bernie.
Dragonfire Hurdy. I like Aura's mind sometimes, because the immediately jump to rationalize it in a normal human context, I get electrocuted.
Well, they went with, am I dead first?
Also very surprised to see Athenos back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wait.
Aren't you supposed to be somewhere else?
I also like how Pony, in attempting to comfort Aura here, just straight up lies about having been put to sleep by the beast for some reason.
Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Why?
Just to be like,
oh, gotta.
Yeah, it's not that dangerous. I've done it too. I totally haven't done it.
Pony would be the fourth wall breaking character, wouldn't she?
Yes.
Between Pony and Geyser, it's kind of a toss-up.
Ooh, yeah. Different types of fourth wall breakage, I think.
Yeah.
Geyser would break the non-existent camera, whereas Pony speaks to it.
Yeah.
Tau's just talking to chat over on the side.
Hey, chat, can you believe this shit?
It's reminding me of the Paper Mario series where you're doing the combat on a stage.
Right, yeah.
Just whenever it's stage play.
I was thinking of it like Terrace House, where we have a screen and screen of Tau.
Live Tau reaction.
Live Tau.
So how has the Asiri and Smog dynamic been? I heard there was conflict.
It's been bad, and by bad I mean absolutely great. We are diametrically opposed on literally everything. But at the same time, we fail to understand that we are opposites of the same coin. So it's just very delightful character writing.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
There are these waves where, and it's usually like someone's way more annoyed than the other, and then we have to meet together on something to get something done. We get really pissed off at each other again.
Yeah, the intersections have been real good.
It's perfect, because right from the beginning, you were the light and the dark playbooks, and just completely kind of flipped visually on that, but still thematically mirroring each other the whole way through. It's been fantastic.
We talked last episode about them being coworkers derogatory.
Yeah.
Coworkers derogatory.
They will work together on the same goal, but unfortunately it's under duress.
I think for Smog right now, it's going to be really interesting because there's only one version that has been shunted into the world of the Lost temporarily that kind of understands how a series is feeling, whereas everyone else is coming out of their own time, having their own idea of their own conversations with Asiri.
Yeah, and Asiri's just mad. And again, it's hard for her because it's not so much Smog that she's mad at. Now she's a little bit annoyed because now she's like, okay, Smog is somewhat in on this. She's really just pissed at Alexander. That's the big thing. Like, get the fuck back to your own world. Like, go home. Get out of here.
I do remember the Asiri-Alexander conflict.
So Asiri is starting to agree with Tau that God's messing with the mortals is not always a good thing, huh?
No, it's much more, this is my fucking universe. Get your get off my lawn, old man. You do raise an interesting point, Zach, because I've had this conversation with Dan rather recently, actually. It's very hard for the Abyss to think about this because typically they're a lot more hands-off. It's a lot more subtle and slight corrections or slight tweaks to things. They're not as like overt as, oh shit, I'm going to hold up the moon now. That sort of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
They just sort of tweak things. It's just like, oh, what would happen if this creature entered the water here? Or if this slightly changed environment affected the ecosystem here. It's not against the laws of nature. It's not very direct. But unfortunately, in this game, it has to be a lot more direct because of the stakes that we're playing with. And if Asiri can't reach to see what's going on Earth right now because she's still waking up, the Abyss can't feel that far right now. If this is the last of what remains of Earth, the Abyss's pet project, she doesn't want to let it go.
Interesting.
It's a high conflict of, should I act like Athenos and just do shit and be cool about it, or should I be subtle as I normally am?
Yeah, I've had that tension thinking about what I'm doing with Smog too, because I use a lot of the Nova Crystallis lore, the 13 lore. God has put its will upon you, and thus you can do magic. And I wanted to play with that and reverse it a little bit. A god has had pity on you for you doing the stupidest possible fucking thing you could do. It was helpful, so you get some powers, you get to live. And I've seesawed on who seems to be more in control in any moment. I hope that shows through, especially when I have like Smog having a hard time saying something in that form.
Yeah. And I get that. And I think that feeds back into why Asiri's so uncertain about Smog directly, because, again, pissed at Alexander, uncertain about Smog because they have a hand in it, but also they don't. But also just, like, Juice's baby, so can't be mad at Juice. It's a very complex relationship because I can't have different links with all three characters.
Juice's baby girl.
Oh. How does Tau, like, think of the people that are coming into their worlds, not physically, but in the moment? What is that relationship like for them?
Tau feels very disconnected from them, almost like this is the first time Tau's really getting to be the audience instead of the performer, but also wanting to see them continue to grow their talents and provide a space for them to practice in Tau's world, to just come to get away at times. So kind of like a disconnected older figure, like an, I don't know, uncle.
That makes me think of like some of the frustrations of being a muse. You're sacrificing the ability to create to enhance what other people are creating.
Right, yeah. Interesting point on that.
Feeling disconnected as a connected.
Oh.
What's going on?
I was sort of connected to too many things at once at this point, I think.
a series just like, hey, Aura, I know I sent Powder to do this job, but also Alraune is knocked the fuck out. Can you keep an eye on her as well? Like, not that I doubt Powder can do anything, but the more eyes on the situation, the better. And I love how Dan described Aura's reaction here. Aura covers their mouth and looks emotionally taken aback.
Right, yes.
They're the ones who've been spending the most time together out of our NPCs that we've sort of linked up between the worlds.
I mean, we did get, like, a hint that Alraune came back and was, like, talking with Aura in the World Travel Lab, but we didn't really see them spending that much time together before this, so...
Yes.
That's very interesting.
I would like to credit Dan with giving the appearance that NPCs have lives and are doing shit while we're not there. A+ world building here, but Aura has a crush on Alraune, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's possible that they don't even get that yet, especially because they have to wrap their mind around things that are harder for them to scientifically observe.
I don't know if they get that they have the crush yet, but
Yeah.
totally Evelyn.
We are getting that from them.
Alraune is just like an embodiment of all the things that Aura doesn't get.
Exactly. And that's why they go together. You don't understand. The way Aura was like, Alraune has grown to care a lot about this place. It makes sense that she gives her all to protect it. There's something there. I'm reading into it. I'm reading between the lines, and I'm like, tell me more.
Sammie's like, give me more brain rot.
Please.
I need as much of it as possible.
Literally, if brain rot is what makes me draw every day, so be it. Let it be. After that, we enter the flower portal, which becomes the world of motion.
World of Motion, which immediately starts moving under your feet in a little earthquake.
I'm sure that's not a problem that we'll have to address.
No,
Definitely
not at all.
not explicitly called out as the biggest threat here by a later move we made.
Certainly not a problem. Earthquakes, they're fine.
Totally fine.
We just tiptoed our way into this world, so there's so much we have to learn about what the fuck's going on here. But the idea of a world of motion just makes me think of that Magic School Bus episode where they're exploring actual sound waves and riding around on them. I just need us to be able to see like the kineticism of the energy moving and things. So I'm excited to see where Dan takes those.
Well, you can sort of see that in a way, as everyone starts moving around and wind picks up and follows them. Pony at first, running around with wind trailing after her.
But that's the interesting thing, right? It's only Pony that's had that. Nobody else got that effect.
Juice also turned into, what are the Kirby enemies? Are these called wheelies?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, turned into like one of those while rolling around, so eye socks and mouth were rolling in the middle. So I think there was a little something going on along with Juice as well. But Geyser didn't do anything just by jumping.
Yeah, I think it was more of the, like, sustained motion instead of just jumping in place that Geyser was doing. And I don't think Asiri really tried anything, but Asiri is probably not super familiar with what wind is, just from looking. You can probably see there's current flowing here, weirdly.
Asiri did swim, but again, I don't know if it's just because she's contained in her bubble and therefore not in the air.
Yeah.
The winds also got more powerful as she went faster, so don't want to see what happens if she goes into a full trot and just sends the world into a giant cyclone.
Oh, good.
I love that Athenos was so impressed with this too. Like, oh, you're doing magic so well.
Yes. Yeah, it's because like you guys progressed so much since he's seen you last. Literally multiple playbooks.
Athenos wipes a tear away. I'm so proud of all of you.
My stupid babies.
So aside from the earthquake, we have something flying above us and something moving down the same level as us. That seems strange. A little too far away to figure out what they actually are.
Not directly above you all at first. I think it was mentioned that there's a little square shape on the ground in the distance, and then like flying in a circle over it was something else.
Yeah, nobody can make out what it was, and the sequence of events confused me. I know Geyser lights a fire at some point.
When isn't Geyser?
This is fair.
I can't remember what Geyser was trying to accomplish with the magic, just that...
I remember. Okay, they were trying to smoke screen us so that whatever was in the sky couldn't see us, because it once it noticed us, it started heading towards us, and it got wildly out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Geyser managed to not set anyone on fire, but the fields around us started going. So Juice is like, I'm going to wiggle around, use some wind power, and embody Garuda a little bit, and wipe away all this fire. Deprive it of all the oxygen.
Clearing up the space for the manticore that was flying around to land right in front of you all.
And for those who are not familiar, a manticore is basically like a big lion with wings and a scorpion tail. They're monstrous beasts from myth, and they usually have a very bad attitude.
Yeah, they're kind of famous. Maybe get educated about fantastical. Okay. Stop being so stupid, viewer.
This one is special because this one looks just like adult Simba from The Lion King.
Was that a thing that was actually mentioned?
There was a picture that was shared.
Oh, yes, the picture.
And it was adult Simba from Lion King. So safe to say this is probably like a world that's pretty close to Pony.
Yeah, I think so. That's the vibe I'm picking up. Although I do like the party's reaction to this giant thing landing in front of us, staring menacingly. Assyrian and Athenos are like, hey, how's it going?
Based on where we've been before, that's a fair reaction to the first thing that you meet. We haven't been, like, immediately attacked by beasts before. Except, I guess, that one time in the World of the Lost, but...
Yep.
Imagine if we were dumped right into a tutorial battle in the World of Song.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
We kind of were, but...
We witnessed a tutorial battle.
Yeah.
Well, we got dumped right in front of the mentor that was like, all right, now I'm going to teach you how to tutorial battle.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny.
So Zach and I did message a little bit back and forth, being like, what the hell are we going to be here? Because we're both connected.
Going into this world mid-session, we didn't have a whole lot of time to prep. And Dan mentioned basically any character idea would fit well in here. So, as you all are being attacked by this manticore, see Tau coming in. This world's Tau. Running through the grasses with ribbons fluttering off of them, wind streaming around them, coming in to save you all.
I like how you choose to save us by just going, shoot, get this, shoot, go!
Well, first I tripped it, so it stopped running, and then I was like, shoo, go away!
That was my favorite. It was just like, this is just a minor inconvenience.
Yeah.
Large flying beast, shoo!
We also got even more fantasy vibes later on, so we retconned that this Tau was more completely draconic looking, like a D&D Dragonborn or a lizard person or something.
Right, because between this manticore and later on seeing an orc in this world, figured can go a bit more fantastical.
For sure.
Smog flies in late. I knew that this world would have this mechanic Smog, so I knew that I was going to have the jumpsuit. I did not know that he was going to be an artist with the beret and bangs covering his eyes. Because Zach was like, well, I'm going to be a dancer because it's World of Motion. It's like, I guess I can go kind of meta and be like an animator, be an artist.
Oh.
So Smog is running kind of blue mage here, like stealing enemy abilities and recreating them with paint, because that's definitely something that's happened for blue mage in Final Fantasy before.
Ooh.
That's very, I want to say FF6 blue mage.
Yes, I think that's what that character did for blue mage. Not the version where you have to eat them, because that's been done too.
Yes, that was 9.
Yeah, so the manticore takes a moment to explore each of us and like sniff us and look at us, but like it doesn't talk or do anything. And once it gets fed up of Tau shooing it, it finally swoops back up and away. Just in time for us to notice that square object in the distance was a car, and they were driving right for us.
It's like 1920s motor car.
Hell yeah, brother.
Rumbling along towards us through the open fields.
I mean, Dan did do an excellent job of capturing the wacky races style of, like, I was getting like a 90s cartoon vibe.
Oh, yeah.
I think I mentioned at some point, like, doing all of these initial interstitial campaigns. Like, I never really got a combination of characters that made sense, but we did have a racing world, and it was like, I wish I could have found some way to just do wacky races. So I wonder if that stuck with the idea is like, I'm going to do the wacky races.
Yeah.
That is wacky. I will
Yeah.
whack it out.
In our previous campaign, we did have a racing world, but it was more F-Zero than wacky races.
Yes. It was like F-Zero mobsters.
Well, you weren't in the same game as Zach.
Right, yeah.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Alex's interstitial campaign.
Yes. He ran 3 different versions of that for 3 different groups.
We were in a car chase in like mobster world.
Yes, I do remember this.
Yeah.
It was more because Zach's brother was playing in that game and had a sports-based character, but just like generalized sports. And then someone else had a more like spacefaring sci-fi character. So it was like the meeting point of those two things is F-Zero.
Yeah, F-Zero is halfway between Super Metroid and Haikyuu.
But Pony's perfect for a racing world because, I mean, a horse, obviously, but also a sort of wacky racist style thing because it gets that humor of Shrek in there. So you have plenty of opportunity for Pony to be impressive and silly.
And impressively silly.
Yes.
So we have a man waving to us from the car as we approach. And I love that just by force of will, by doing enough SpongeBob memes, he's become Patrick.
Right. Dan said he had a different name, but someone just called him Patrick. And...
You know, it works too because he's got like the handlebar mustache, the nice little hat, and everything. Like Patrick Wellington is how he introduces himself. Any other name would have fit well, but this one's still a good one.
Yes.
And his orc companion, Orphan, which makes me wonder if all orcs in this world have like or in their name somewhere.
Yeah, somebody mentioned it was like Ethan with an or, but I thought it was Orphan with a T.
Why not both?
Saying much more about this man's life the other way. Just looking again at how this conversation goes, I wonder why they even stopped to talk to us.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
In the middle of a race.
Because they stopped to talk, they introduced themselves, and then they started being real cagey about pretty much everything.
Well, you have to stop and talk because you're a polite English gentleman. Like, you have to say something. But you'll have to know all of my business, so then I'll be real cagey about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did come over to check if we were okay after they saw Simba attacking us.
They did.
But they won't give us their animal crackers.
They lied about not having food.
In fact, their stop ended up being worse for them than if they had just
Kept going.
they lost their map. They lost the trust of a series.
Yeah, a series is like, you have food and you're not sharing? How dare you?
We learned a little bit about the race, that it has stations that you have to check in at. Apparently, we might be able to get some help at a station.
I really hope it, instead of like a checkpoint or a waypoint in like a racing game, I hope it's just like straight up a gas station they have to stop at.
That's where there's the Final Fantasy 15 influence, because a lot of that game is just like, oh, I've gone too far, I need to gas up. Because even in Fantasy World, you have to use gasoline.
That's
I
stressful.
forgot about that in 15.
Yeah, I like how Juice and Smog creep around this guy's car and just see the map and is like, there's something fucky going on here. Let me just copy and take that.
Not just copy the map for ourselves, copy it, and then take the real one and leave the copy.
I was considering just straight up stealing it, but I was like, all right, I have this move where I can make another version of things that people know about. Why don't I try it? And Dan was like, you get a shittier version. That's one of the options of this move. All right, I'm just going to swap out the shitty version so they can have that, and I'll take the good one. I love that, and we can get back to talking with them, but I love that when they pull away, after a while, we see them going in, like, weird, wrong directions. The map is instantly fucking with them.
Yeah, not quite like actual drunk driving, but like swerving and wiggling along the field. They explain the butterfly run. It's a very recent race. We don't know really much. They're just like, hey, there's a race going on here. We don't know what the prize is. We don't know what the goal is. What are the rules? They're just like, hey, go check it at a station and then have fun. Also, bye.
Yeah, they didn't even want to say if the race had already started yet, which it seems like it has, because we're in between stations 4 and 5 as we're talking. So either it's already started or they're trying to sneak a head start. Either way, something interesting going on.
Yes, might need a little bit of catch-up work to do.
I'm sure we'll explore and figure it out. They begin to drive off, and Athenos is like, yeah, I'm leaving too. Later. Time to bounce.
Gotta go make sure the dog doesn't run off again.
Exactly.
I can't wait for Athenos to pop up randomly going forward.
At least I think 2 more appearances scheduled.
Yay! We need some Deus Ex Machina.
You're right.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, I don't think this is spoiling anything, but hopefully we're going to get a Michael Silva plus Dexter.
Yes, get Scabone.
The chaos. Oh my god. Maybe we can get Scabone a playbook.
Deus Dex Machina.
Oh no. Oh, no. That's actually the first time I've heard that one ever. So.
Thank you.
Assyrian Smog postulate, like, is it fair for us to race given all our fucking superpowers? And Smog's like, maybe the map will track us.
I don't know.
Maybe we can't just jump from place to place.
I am everywhere and nowhere. Should I be in a race? I don't know.
And that's about it, aside from Pony running around and kicking up more wind.
You know what? Good for her. I'm glad she feels free. I feel like this is a good place for Pony to really take a stand and shine. And I'm excited to see what Caroline does with this area.
I feel like Geyser could do really well here, too.
Yeah, getting some more wacky in those races.
There's so many fun things you can do with, like, attaching giant weapons to cars, like BattleBot shit.
Oh, my boy Tombstone.
Smog's mind goes to, what if we start blasting?
And then I started blasting.
Literally the first thing you did upon entering Sequence Charter was blast a guy who was just peacefully in a canyon watching us.
You blasted powder.
I do not like being observed. Do not look at me.
Do not look at me.
Too bad, because apparently something is looking at all of us.
See, I keep hiding. I keep hiding to stop that from happening.
We all have the sensation we're being watched, and I'm nervous.
It's the eyes. We were warned about them.
The eyes. What would y'all have done differently?
I think one thing, like we said, I sort of retconned afterwards that Tau was a more fantasy dragonborn in this world. Would have been nice to get that in right at the start. But other than that, nothing really. Went pretty well.
Yeah, for me, I wonder what would have happened if I had a more direct interaction with Assyri helping Athenos with the moon stuff. Juice and Smog as well. But at the same time, Powder was there, and Assyri's just like, I don't really think you need to know about what I have going on right now, because I don't... There's a lot of baggage there. But I wonder if we could have fixed the moon if all of us were working together.
There was a little bit of time where Smog wasn't in the scene, and I don't regret the circumstances led to that. It makes a lot of sense with what I have going forward, but it meant there wasn't a good way to communicate with Athenos, and Dex's time is so limited and precious, I wanted to chat a little bit more.
Going in, I had the goal of creating that not anxious environment, the pressure's on, like, you've got these visions, something's happening with it in the configuration, and something Dan and I were talking about was, like, not railroading the plot forward so much as, like, getting the party to progress on the world. Like, we have the overarching goal of mending all the worlds, threading them all together with Sequence Charter. And a major goal for me was, like, to not create, like, the sound of, like, this threat that was in the configuration that, like, caused the party to go, we should go into the configuration, because that's, like, wasn't really the point of, like, the threat. So I don't know if I did that particularly well, because we did, like, have a brief moment where we were like, let's go into the configuration. I was like, whoa. Let's not do that. So I think I would like to convey that a little bit better. But that's about it.
Let's get into the resolution phase, a segment of the show where we each get to say something about the game with no responses. What is your final say on this session, Zach?
Finally making some motion through these new worlds, and I'm excited for it. And you can find me at Zach Defense on Blue Sky.
And you, Dex?
I can't wait for the inevitable Asiri v Smog showdown, where it just becomes a fight at some point. I can't wait to hear it sometime down the line on a podcast and be like, ha, there it is. You can find me at DexFanWrites on Twitter, though I'm pretty sure I'm leaving the Twitter space. And you can find me at Snickerdoodle, dude spelled D-U-D-E, at Blue Sky.
And you, Alex?
We can look forward to some Chocobo in the future, very soon. You can find me on Blue Sky at Shining Crowbat. This week I'm going to recommend Banners of Ruin. It is a roguelite card game with a bunch of medieval furries. It's very similar to, oh my god, what's one everyone likes?
Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire, yes. It's very similar to Slay the Spire, except you've got two 2x3 grids that you and then your enemies are on, so there's a little bit of tactical movement, and you've got multiple player characters to play cards from, possibly. I haven't played it as much as other similar games, but I keep coming back to it because I want to get that final boss fight done at some point.
And for myself, I think Asiri is very curious about the motion of whatever ocean is here. You can find me by following that breadcrumb trail leading up to that suspiciously sweet-looking gingerbread house. This has been Resolve, an Afterplay show. You can find us online at most social media sites at ResolveAP.
Except Instagram, which is at ResolveAfterplay.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. You can buy the game we're playing, Interstitial, Our Hearts Intertwined, from its creator, Riley Hopkins, at linksmithgames.com.
All links will be included in the episode description.
Thank you again for listening. We end our turn here, so now it's your turn. Tell us what's happening in your game.